and welcome to another edition of Rory on Politics. Yay! All right, so it's been a couple rough weeks, and I haven't had an upload recently. I've got a couple stockpiled that I'm working on, but they're always changing the tax plan and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's just driving me insane. Um, So I want to go over this one here. I've got a video I'm going to upload on tax plan. I've already done a couple with a on demand versus demand economics versus supply side economics, but I've actually written my own tax plan, and I'm going to upload that a little bit and show you how I believe it would be nice if Congress would actually do things. Not necessarily the plan in particular, although I think it's a pretty good one. Not perfect because, well, I'm just one guy. Um, but I think it's got some potential as far as how I think they should handle it rather than this little backdoor stuff that they're doing. Okay, so anyway, today's issue is going to be about conspiracy against the United States. I've already talked to my local reps and let them know what I feel about it. Specifically, Senators James Lankford, Senator James Inhofe, and Rep Frank Lucas. And so they know this is coming. And when I get that uploaded, I'm going to give them a direct feed so they have a chance to reply and offer their feedback if they want to disagree. I frankly doubt they're going to bother. The thing is, a lot of words are being thrown around right now with Trump. All right, treason and stuff like that. Trump is not actually guilty of treason. I think his behavior is anti-American and against the interests of the United States, but that's not actually treason. I'm going to explain that in the next part, or 2 parts down. There's a lot of this stuff on the video. I've broken it down. I want you to pay attention to the subject line, like here, where it says Rory on Politics. I'll break it down into different groups. So there's the next one is going to be my perspective. That's basically where I explain where I'm coming from. And if you don't like that, feel free to ignore the video. A lot of people are, but I want to be honest. And this is what the perspectives I bring to the table. Okay, some people dismiss that because it's like, oh well, he hates Republicans, so it's there. And others will, and if you already understand that or you don't really care, the next subject will be on the conspiracy, where I explain conspiracy, treason, go over some of the definitions, and then make the case for it, so that you can just skip ahead by looking at the title at the bottom. Try and make that as easy as I can on my viewers. All right. Okay, so with that said, we are going to the next section, which is my perspective. All right, this is important because I believe in integrity, I believe in honesty, and there's a lot of bias out there, and we all have it, okay, including myself. You should be able to understand the bias and perspectives of the person you're listening or talking with so that you can filter what they're saying and see, are they being objective or are they just trying to sell me something, whatever. So here's my thing. If you can look it through some of my blog, especially my blog, but some of my videos, although most of those are more how-tos and definition types, you will understand that I am more on the left side than the right, okay? I am definitely not a conservative. I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe the government needs to not make more than it spends, and needs to spend that money that we hard-earned taxpayers give it responsibly. But the rest of the conservative movement I don't like, okay? And there's variations, and, the problem with using a huge label like conservative or liberal is they cover a lot of territory, and even people within that label won't agree with all parts, all right? But the conservative concept is basically the good old days are the best. Why change it if it worked in the past? The way my grandpappy worked was just fine, so we don't need to change anything. And I believe that's just you look backwards. That's just it seems to me it's just a stupid concept. I could get nostalgia, and there are things that may have been better in the past, but there are a lot of things better in the future. Strict conservative, is anti-Christian. The Pharisees, they were conservative. They, crucified Christ, which I find ironic that conservatives identify themselves with, Christianity. It's like, really? Fundamentalist Muslims, they're Christians. Um, Conservatives resent change. The old way is the best. Any new change, bad. That's a strict conservative. Okay. Again, most people will have a variation in their opinions. Liberal definition is a little more confusing, to be honest. And so I'm not even going to bother with it. What I believe is, I believe that the United States is a great country. I believe it could be better. Okay. All things, only God makes it perfect. We should keep striving to improve and make things better, which is why I don't like the conservative perspective of it's perfect the way it is. It's, I don't know. It seems to me you're putting yourself above God. The idea that you can, I don't know. Anyway, the idea is that I believe the United States was founded on the principle of taxation with proper representation. Okay, that was one of the founders. England was taking all our tax money and not representing us. England was housing troops in private homes to save money, and doing things, and it also helped them keep a better eye on the populace. And the founders of the country didn't like that. They felt it's our country and we should be represented properly. And they seceded and decided to rebel against England and create their own country. In that form, the founders of the thing were also liberals. They were certainly not conservative because they wanted change. The idea is that, so what I believe is that the preamble in the Constitution, there are different things. They're related, but they're not actually the same document. And the preamble is basically, the idea is that America is founded on life, liberty, and justice for all. That's paraphrasing it. What I believe that really means is that the country is about empowering. A good country should empower its citizens, not oppress them, not persecute them, but empower them to be better, to have better lives, to live longer, healthier, more productive, and more interesting lives. And when you start taking away personal freedoms, that start stepping into fascist territory, and that's a problem. On the other hand, you can't have total freedom to do anything you want because that's anarchy, and then now it's just a matter of who happens to be the toughest kid on the block. I've got a bigger gun than you do, so I shoot you. I can do what I want. We get a group of us together and we just, beat up our neighbors, and, anarchy's no good. We need a rule of law, okay? But they got to be good laws. They got to be smart laws. And they need to be looked at from time to time and maybe change. For example, the whole 3/5 of a person that black people used to be. And that was the South wanted, says, well, we don't want blacks to vote. We don't think they're real people. But on the other hand, we don't like the fact that the more densely populated North gets to have more representation in Congress. So let's count a black person as 3/5 of a person. That way they can't actually vote, but they help our census ratings, and so they help us get more representation. Women shouldn't be allowed to vote. Okay, women are just, they need to be in the home, keeping the man happy, and doing the dishes, and the classic stereotype, barefoot and pregnant, and whatever. As time moved on, we evolved past these things. We started to recognize equality. We started to recognize citizenship, and says, a black person, really? Why? God made him too. Okay, why is he not a person? A woman? Really? Women aren't any stupider than men. Some may argue that they're smarter. Several of my female friends will do that, in fact. But the fact is, they have different perspectives and personalities. A lot of that's culture driven. But it's just wrong to hold down a class of people based on that one. Indians, we stole their land, okay? And to continue and demean them and renegotiate negotiate. Basically break treaties with them constantly, like we just did with Dakota and stuff like that. North Dakota, excuse me, and stuff like that is just wrong. I mean, how long do we have to keep stealing from these people? Um, on that agenda, I'm part Indian, just a tiny, tiny little part. Like my great grandpa was part Cherokee or full half Cherokee or something. I don't know. Anyway, I don't even count it, but I'll just throw it out there in case he goes, oh, well, he likes Indians because he's Indian. Yeah, whatever. All right. I just like people. I think America needs to be a moral country, and we're sliding into immorality. So I don't like the Republican agenda. Okay, and I apologize to get long-winded, but like I said, I got the little title, so you can ignore me. I got the Republican concepts are basically corporations are more important than people. Corporations are should be trusted. We can trust corporations, so we don't need to regulate them. Get rid of as many regulations as possible. We don't want to regulate them. Democrats say no, we can't trust a company. Okay. A company's primary interest is going to be for itself, which honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But that doesn't mean it's best for its customers. For example, Wells Fargo stealing, creating fake accounts on their customers, stealing money from them. And that was in the best interest of Wells Fargo, at least in the short term. Certainly wasn't the best interest of the countries, of the customers that were losing the money. The banks that caused the last recession after the Bush presidency deregulated them, and the Republicans deregulated them, saying, you know what, we had some pretty strict controls on you guys. We trust you. Just go ahead and invest your money however you want. And so they made a lot of high risk but potentially high reward investments, figuring, you know what, if we lose our money, no big deal. The government's going to bail us out. And, well, we did. But that caused a massive recession that took almost a decade to get out of, and caused a lot of problems to the country. A lot of people lost their homes, jobs, whatever. And that's why I believe we need regulation. It needs to be smart. Democrats sometimes get a little carried away with it, but we need to have it. Companies like we have in Virginia, where they blow off the top of a mountain to get the coal. Why do they do that? Well, because it's cheaper. You don't have to hire a bunch of coal miners if you can just blow up things and dig it out that way. It costs less money. They can employ fewer people, and unfortunately, it creates a lot of side effect. I mean, you're blowing off top of a mountain. Okay, there's going to be dust and silica everywhere, and they pollute the waters and stuff like that. But they don't care. Okay. And that's in the best interest of the company. On the one hand, I don't blame the company for putting their interests ahead of other ones, but there's a morale thing. At a certain point, now you've gone too far. Okay, and I consider that immoral when you're poisoning people's water, food and water, and stuff like that. Child labor. Conservatives would still have child labor. Now, modern conservative may not agree with that, may say, no. But that was the conservative, the liberals or the left part is what pushed past that. The labor unions. Now, labor unions aren't perfect. We had a lot of mob ties, a lot of corruption in them. But the concept was of the people being able to unite against management to say, you know what, we deserve to have a reasonable work day and stuff like that, and a raise now and then, stuff like that. Conservatives are against that. The Republican Party is against that. They've been doing a very effective job over the last couple of decades of getting rid of unions. And unfortunately, our wages have grown stagnant because of that. Well, because of other things too, but that's a big part. No representation for the individual worker. So I have a lot of problems with the Republican Party, okay? But I also have a lot of problem with the Democratic Party, okay? They're corrupt, really horribly corrupt. They don't listen to their own people. They are trying to, basically, the Democrat and Republican Party have been taken over by big money. And so they don't no longer care about the individual. They no longer really care about grassroots campaigns. They no longer really care about citizens. They care about big donors getting elected, staying in power, getting rich. That's both parties. So I am in no means an apologist for the Democratic Party. But I do despise the Republicans more. And you say, well, why? If they're both corrupt and they're both taking big money and they both want to screw over the United States citizenry. Why? Well, because the Republican Party are mostly hypocrites. Now, I'm not saying every Republican is, but the fact is, hypocrisy is rife within the Republican Party, and it really ticks me off more than anything else. It's one thing to steal from me. It's one thing to try and, push people down. It's another thing to lie about it. I don't know why, but that hypocrisy, it just grinds my gears more than anything else. So part of the hypocrisy I'm talking about, for example, they call themselves the Family Values Party. Really? They've got the term pedophile gets used a lot with Roy Moore. That's not really accurate, I believe. Pedophile is a prepubescent kid. And the youngest person he's been accused of was a 14-year-old. A minor. And a lot of other minors too. 16 still a minor, okay? Maybe it wasn't back then in Alabama, but it certainly is by today's standard. 17, basically, if you're under 18, you're still a teenager, okay? And he, and some people say, well, it's okay that he did that because there were different times. He still got the attitude. Some people say, well, how do we trust those women? Sure, there's a lot of them. More and more seem to be stepping out all the time. But, he says it denies it. And as Trump puts it, he totally denies it. So we must believe him, right? Well, he was kicked off the bench twice. And once for lying. Under oath. A judge. Really? He's got credibility? Just listen to his interview on Sean Hannity. Okay? A conservative pretty much can't have a more easy softball interview than Sean Hannity. Okay? And Sean Hannity basically tried to give him a pass. He blew it. Tried to soft talk him back into a reasonable way. And, Sean Hannity asked him, so have you ever dated, any underage girls or like that? And he's expecting a reasonable answer, even if it's not true, that the potential senator is going to say, oh, yeah, no, I haven't done that. I wouldn't do that. No. You know what his answer was? Did you listen to that Sean Hannity interview? His answer was, well, not commonly. Okay, not commonly is not a denial. Not commonly is not saying I never did. Not commonly is saying I didn't commonly do it, which meant you did do it. Okay? Sometimes you dated underage girls. He admits it right there on the interview, and somehow, you know what, we'll give him a pass because he's a Republican. That's the hypocrisy part. Okay? And Republicans call themselves the Family Values and Christian, and they want to elect somebody who is going off and doing all that stuff. Trump admitted groping, assaulting women. Oh, it was just locker room talk, whatever. That's hypocrisy. They're making excuses to get their guy in. Okay? He bragged on Howard Stern about how he would go into his beauty pageants, including Teen USA. Okay, teenagers, 15-year-olds. All right? And he would go into their locker room and watch them, get dressed. And they were undressed. And he'd go in there and he was inspecting the facilities, making sure everything was good. And he was bragging about it and laughing about it. It's like, oh, yeah, I could do it. And there's nothing they could do to stop me. I own the place. Really? And Republicans support this guy. Okay? The Roy Moore thing. Republicans, I'm wandering on this a little too long. Republicans, but again, please skip past it if I've already made my point or whatever. Republicans went and after the Sean Hannity interviewed, the RNC defunded him. They said, you know what? I kind of believe the women, but I understand the argument, he said, she said, so you don't really know. But he basically admitted it on TV. He had radio rather. He had his own interview. He pretty much admitted it. Okay, his denial was totally not credible. It's like not commonly. And when I did, I asked their mothers. Really, you have to ask their mothers for permission to date them? That tells me already. It's just disgusting. So that's what these people do. Okay, bad hypocrisy, family values. They say they're the troop of. They're the patriotic party and they're pro-defense. They're not pro-defense. A lot of them never served in the country, served in the military. A lot of them don't care. Trump certainly doesn't care. Trump has demean the military and veterans almost every chance he used to get, from stealing from a charity, veterans charity that he withheld the money from until it came out in the paper that, he still hasn't paid them, despite them sending letters like, where's that check that we were promised? And it's like, I'm holding on to it. And finally it came out in the paper and was, okay, yeah, I paperwork got lost, whatever, here's the money. And then he charged him for extra stuff and put him on there. Then, which is the stealing part. Then he goes off and he demeaned, whether it's a commencement ceremony at the Coast Guard, memorial, whatever it is, attacking a young widow who just lost her husband, calling her a liar because she said something that, he didn't like. Any reasonable person would have said, you know what? I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. And I apologize that, you took it in a manner I didn't mean to. My fault. I'm sorry. But he doesn't do that. He says, she lied. I didn't say that. On and on, attacking another, the Gold Star families, making fun of handicapped people, attacking Senator McCain, he's not really a war hero because he got captured. Really? And he doesn't care about the troops. Never did, never will. He's a draft dodging coward. But Republicans support him and claim to be pro-military and pro-federal. They're not really pro-military. What they are is pro-military industrial complex. They want that pork barrel money, the big money from corporations that are defense contractors, that are big donors. That's what they want. They don't care about troops, okay? And again, I'm talking about in general, the whole party as a whole, not individual senators or individual House representatives, okay? For example, Ronald Reagan. I believe Ronald Reagan was a patriot, okay? His economic stance was a problem, but I believe he was a patriot and he really cared about the troops. I met the man, okay? But the party in the whole, as a whole group, is corrupt, and which again the Democrats are too, and they're rife with hypocrisy, which there's some hypocrisy on both sides. But the Democrats are so blatant about it, they just rain it down every time you listen to them. This tax bill's for the middle class. Really? Why the middle class cuts temporary instead of permanent? Oh yeah, well we had to do that to make the math work. Well, you could have made the cuts on the corporations temporary and the cuts on the individuals permanent if you really wanted to do it that way. Well, yeah, right. There's lots of benefits to the medical. Name one. Velashian Rule. Great people on MSNBC. They actually go into more depth than a lot of these cable news type stuff. They popped off, asked a question from, I forget what the guy was. He pops off with, oh yeah, there's dozens of cuts. What's the name one? Well, there's dozens. We got rid of things like that. No. Give me a specific. If there's really dozens and you just worked on the plan, you should be able to come up with at least one, right? He couldn't do it. Okay? This plan is going... never mind, that's a whole other argument. I've already gone over the tax plan before, and I'll go over it again. Sorry. Anyway, I don't like both parties. I believe we need to basically remove everybody from office and start with a fresh batch of people. We need to get government out of Congress. We've got to get government out of politics, and until we do that, we're going to have more and more corruption and less stuff going on with American people. All right. That's my bias. You know about it. And if you want to think that everything I'm saying is because I hate Republicans, well, remember, I hate Democrats too. Okay? And I don't hate all Republicans or all Democrats. I believe Senator McCain is a patriot. I believe he's a good Democrat. Senator Langford, I no longer have as much faith in him as I used to, unfortunately. And I won't be voting for him next time like this last time, but, we'll see. But I believe he's probably still a good person. I don't say that as with as much confidence as I had a year ago, but I still think it's true. I mean, he's misguided, in my opinion. And he'll say, I'm misguided, and that's cool. Okay, this is America still. May not be for a little bit longer if Trump has his way with his Secret Service. He's trying to set up his own spy agency. I'll answer only to him. Now that probably won't go through. Congress will kill that, but it's still really that's going back to McCarthy. And worse, FDR also with with him trying to control the FBI. It's just we should have moved past that. But again, conservatives want the old way. So, all right. So, conspiracy against the U.S. Now, a lot of people throw around this term. Well, actually, not that many. It is what was charged against Manafort and Gates. And it could have been charged against Flynn, but they went softball on Flynn because he rolled over. We don't know what he rolled over, what he said yet, but obviously, they only charged him with the one count of lying to the FBI, and in the documentation, they documented numerous other charges they could have charged him with that they didn't bother. Plus, there's a lot of other stuff that most of us believe that are out there that he could have gone over. So it's like, yeah. So obviously he rolled over on something, and we'll see that later in the upcoming months. Treason is a term used a lot. It's like, oh, it's treason, or it's at least treasonous behavior. It's leaning towards treason. No. As much as I despise Donald Trump, as much as I think he's anti-American, and he's bad for this country, he is not currently probably guilty of treason. There's a couple points where it's close. Before I go on further, let me read you the definition of treason. Okay. All right. That's conspiracy. USA Code, treason, sedition, seditious conspiracy, treason. Here it is. All right. Whoever owing, this is 18 or section or title 18, part 1, chapter 115, section 2381. But if you just type in treason in your search engine, you'll find it. Oh, wait. Let me put this in there. Click here for a second. Boom. Bring this up again. Okay. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Okay? That's treason. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States, which technically that's all citizenry, levies war against them, that's the key part, or adheres to their enemies, obviously Trump's done that, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason. If you go into another one, the treason's been amended a little bit on that one, do some, some court interpretations. So, for example, there was a guy, Burr, I believe it was tried to create sedition. He went off and said, well, I'm going to create a new country within the United States. And, there's some different things that have been gone. Treason's been brought against a few people. It's the founders who were committing treason at the time because they were citizens of England. They took treason kind of seriously, and they wanted it well defined because they didn't want people to be just convicted of treason as political maneuvering. So you have to have two witnesses. That's what makes people hard. Who witness the treasonous act and are willing to testify under open court. The main thing though is that levies war. So technically, you can't be treason if we're not at war. Okay. So if we're not at war, then treason doesn't apply. Okay, unless you're part of a coup to declare war. Okay, that goes into sedition and some other things too. There's actually quite a bit in that section on that one. So right now, and I don't believe it's going to happen until February, maybe March, that we are at war. I don't believe what's going on with ISIS counts as a war or in Afghanistan because I don't believe Congress. I think they're pulling the same gimmick they did with Vietnam, calling it a police action. So it's not technically a war. Thousands of our troops die. Okay. Anyway, so what they're trying to do is Trump, is. Oh, yeah. Go in there. Let's go in here real quick. Switch. Okay, so seditious conspiracy. There it is. This is the one that I believe Trump is guilty of, however, and the evidence, proves that to the contrary. Okay. This is conspiracy to commit offense or to defraud the United States. This is what Paul Manafort and I forget the guy's name, Gates, his assistant, were charged with, among other things. If two or more persons conspire either to commit any offense against the United States or to defraud, that's the key one, the United States or any agency thereof in any manner for any purpose, and one or more of such persons do any act, they got to do more than think about it, do any act to affect the object of the conspiracy, each shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. If, however, the offense, the commission of which is the object of the conspiracy, is a misdemeanor only, the punishment for such conspiracy shall not exceed the maximum punishment provided for such a misdemeanor. So what that means is, if you attempt to defraud the United States, you can be with multiple people. If it's just you, it's not a conspiracy, of course. But if you with somebody else try to defraud the United States, you can be charged under this one. Paul Manafort and Gates were charged with conspiracy because of the money laundering schemes, tax evasion, and some other thing, and being an unregistered foreign agent. Specifically with the Ukraine. Ukraine used to be an independent country. Russians trying to get buffer states and take it over. They're supporting their own regime there. It's conflicted political history. And so Paul Manafort and Gates took some money from the Ukraine authorities and tried to get U.S. policy changed in regards to that and Russia. We're not at war, so it's not treason, but it is, working against the interest of the United States, trying to defraud it. And this is the act that Trump is guilty of, and the entire GOP, the whole Republican Party, okay? With possibly a couple of exceptions. For example, I don't believe Senator John McCain is guilty of this because he is trying to call it out and stop it. Unfortunately, most of the other senators are quiet on the matter or make excuses. And House Republicans are even worse because they've declined to impeach Trump for it. Go back to my prediction things. Before the election, I predicted that if Trump won, remember he had won his before the election, before we had voted, that if he won, and I thought it was going to be close, but I was hoping Hillary would win. Not that she was honest, not that I liked her. Okay, she was corrupt as the day is long. Establishment one wasn't going to be good for the country. But I believe Trump was going to be worse for the country. Okay? And so I voted reluctantly for her. Because the Jill Stein vote would have been a throwaway vote. I mean, or any other third-party candidate, if there were any left in the game at that point. I don't really remember. I mean, our system is set up basically for a two-party system right now at this point, which is, I believe, a problem. It just doesn't give Americans a choice. So, think about it. We've been with the lesser of two evils. That's why most people don't vote anymore. They're always choosing, I don't like either guy, but this one's slightly less reprehensible than the other one. The problem is, Trump got into office. So I predicted impeachment proceedings would start before the end of his first year in office if he did get elected. And that happened. They had a vote. It was, I think it was 12 people voted in the House against it. Maybe it was 18. Voted for the impeachment, and everybody else, all of the GOP reps and most of the Democrats voted against impeachment. And so every one of them is, in my opinion, guilty of supporting the man in office and saying it's okay that he's there. Whether they're doing it because of a political agenda, they agree with him, they're willing to sacrifice the country for their tax giveaway to the rich, deregulation, whatever their agenda is that they want to pass, that they decide, it's okay to have him in there as long as we get this done. They are guilty of conspiracy against the United States. All right. Big words, big threat. Let's call it out why it is. Okay. The defraud the government. he's violating the and I've talked to my reps about this one, and I come there, and they're saying, for the most part, well, we need to let the process take its course. We've got um, the Mueller investigation. We've got various House and Senate committees investigating various aspects of what's going on, and we need to wait and see how that all turns out. We don't need to wait. Okay, the violations of the law, some of them anyway, are right there, readily apparent to the public. Some of them, yeah, we need to investigate. Was there Russian collusion? Yeah, I think so. But the actual evidence isn't really out, at least in the public view yet. There's a lot of smoke. But the actual hardcore proof, is there enough for a trial? I don't know. It's debatable. So, okay, let that proceed. But he's violating the Emoluments Clause, which is, a violation of the Constitution that he swore to uphold, and that all of Congress swore to uphold. Right from the get-go, day one, he is taking money from foreign powers, foreign governments, foreign citizens, and using it to line his pocket. Okay? That's people staying in his various hotels. And that one's plain as day. There's a bunch more. The Southern White House, as he likes to call it, where he doubled his membership for Mar-a-Lago, upon being elected. It's like, oh, you know what? We'll go from $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year membership fees. Okay, that's a pretty big chunk of change, but he justifies it because, of course, hey, you get pay money to become a member of my club, and you may get to see the President of the United States or some of my dignitaries, and I'll have like he had the Chinese, ambassador over there and stuff like that. It's like, hey, we'll have some there, and you get a hobnob with powerful people, and of course, give us a chance to influence what's going on. He advertises his golf courses. He goes to spend, every weekend basically he's just about at one of his estates, and a lot of times at the golf courses. He's, for which he's getting money. He actually, the Secret Service actually wound up having to stay outside of his hotel get their headquarters out because he was charging them too much rent. His own hotel, he's charging the people who are trying to keep him alive, okay, such an exorbitant rent that it basically bankrupted them. They're flying all around, and covering all of that stuff, and he's stealing money from the United States, the taxpayer. That counts as defrauding the U.S. And its agencies. The whole money laundering, okay, that's tax evasion. Plus, we don't know because he refused, even though he promised he would, he refuses to release his taxes. I don't know that everything on there is on the tax. It wouldn't surprise me any if he was fraudulent on his tax releases. So maybe not everything is there. I mean, honestly, I really doubt. He seems kind of stupid. I doubt he would do that. But some of it's there, and at least some information to trace it. He owes money. He's basically, because he was going bankrupt so many times and running his businesses, that the U.S. banks would not loan him any more money. This is you just keep defrauding and going bankrupt. It would be stupid of us to loan the money. So he wound up getting his money from foreign banks. Mostly Deutsche Bank, which is a German bank tied to Russian oligarchs, basically Russian rich people, and more than just rich people. They're kind of like dukes and stuff. I mean, they're almost an aristocratic without the titles, and the bank's been sanctioned many times for money laundering and stuff like that. There's a lot of real estate corruption in New York where they basically buy it. They bought one of his buildings. They've leased, property. You just have to look all over the place. Just pick up a paper, watch the news. It's easy to do a little Google research. There's all kinds of examples of money laundering and schemes where he is using his position to get money. We are at risk, okay, of what happens is, think about it. He owes potentially billions, okay? We know at least 50 million, and I'm sure it's more than that, of money to Russia, Yeah, don't think he. I mean, and think about it. The guy will get on a tweet fair with a random comedian, a citizen, anybody. He attacks everybody except Putin. Putin's his hero. Everything Putin does is great. Putin's a great man. He's a good man. There's a reason that he. I mean, just think about it. Common sense. There's a reason that Putin is the one person in the world that Trump, well, okay, except for like Ivanka or something, his immediate family. And he's even attacked some of them. But he'll never say a bad word about Putin. Congress passed a veto-proof law, which he signed because, well, it was veto-proof. He pretty much had no choice. That passed by only 2 people in the Senate voted against it. Only 2, okay? Which meant, boom, he vetoes it. We'll just ram it right through again, okay? Imposing more sanctions because of Russian meddling with the elections. He still has yet to act on that. He signed it, but he's stalling. It's like, oh, I'm not going to really impose it. We see more evidence of the sanctions released on that one. And this is just public info. Senator James Lankford is on the Intel Committee. He's got more of this information than we do. And, he's not doing anything about it. We've got all of this stuff going on where there's just the evidence of collusion against the collusion is not a crime. The election tampering. I don't believe that Trump won the election because of Russian meddling. I believe it may have influenced it a little bit. And honestly, I don't care at this point. He's the president, so deal with it. All right? We're not, I don't think anybody really, except maybe Hillary, but who cares? She's made herself marginalized. We're not asking to relitigate the election, okay? We're asking Congress to do something to prevent the next time that they meddle, and they're stalling. Have you heard anything that they're doing? No. They're looking into it, and they'll wait until after. In the meantime, we've got 2018 coming up. Russia will still be able to meddle in the election there because Congress won't get off their duff and do anything serious about revamping our systems to protect it. Okay, I mean they're working on it a little bit, but they don't take it. They're not obviously taking it seriously enough to really get into it, and that's mostly because Trump still insists there was no collusion, there was no Russia didn't meddle in elections, despite all the intelligence agencies involved saying yes. So they can't really go too far against him without him slamming them. So they're playing the coward's role. And they're putting their party ahead of the United States of America. So the evidence that Trump is working against the United States is clear out there. The levels vary, okay? There's, did he did this? Is he selling out? Is he trying to remove the sanctions, that we imposed on them because of the other one and that oil deal, which is why most people believe he put Tillerson in charge as the Secretary of State so that Exxon could get rich doing that, once we release the sanctions with that deal with Russia. Is the proof out there? Make your own mind up, okay? It's speculative at this point, some of it, but there's enough crimes, enough problems that have been proven. I mean, think about it. If this was Obama, Hillary, I mean, they're trying to open up another, waste another, probably $1 million or more taxpayer dollars on investigating Hillary's emails again. She's powerless. She's out of office. She's useless. Okay, she's a drag on the Democratic Party. She is, and they want to and this has been investigated already, but because it's distracting, because it sounds good, we're just going to investigate it again. But we're not going to get serious about investigating the other stuff that's current. Yeah, right. The Republican Party is making excuses, is protecting Trump. And this is where the conspiracy part gets, okay? Do I believe that the majority of Republicans are trying to destroy the United States? No. Do I believe that the majority of the Republicans are trying to defraud the United States? Well, yeah, kind of. But it depends on what you mean by defraud. they're lying to the citizens in with their tax thing and trying to, let's give all the money breaks to the rich people, separate the divide from the middle class. The middle class becomes lower and lower and poor. They can't keep up with inflation. Their wages go down. I believe it's un-American, but I don't believe that's an actual crime. Okay, but allowing the President of the United States to make a mockery of the United States, even that's not a crime, bad image, but allowing him to attack our allies, allowing him to and try to make our enemies, foreign powers, people who have attacked the United States, he's helping them. And he's worn down our position in the world stage. He's basically handed over the world economy to China. When he stepped down with the Paris, they moved right in and said, hey, you know what? We've been working on, solar cells and a lot of stuff there. And so, now all of a sudden they're going to have a leadership in the marketing and doing that. That's American jobs that he just cost us. Okay. And he's going to do this. I mean, has he made any good deals since he's been in the U.S.? I haven't seen any. He's trying to get rid of all the trade deals. Maybe they don't like the trade deals. Okay, that's fine. But by negotiating each individual one and gutting the State Department so all the deals are on him instead of, other people, he is trying to weaken the United States and has been doing a pretty damn good job of it. Republicans are supporting that. Republicans are supporting the growing war. And like I said, I believe that pretty soon, and right now I'm currently estimating about February, March, we are probably going to be in a war again with North Korea and possibly China. There's also possibilities. Basically, as the pressure ratchets up, Trump is going to want to create a war so that he can distract from things and get rid of that. At that point, treason will apply. All those lives, and remember, North Korea isn't just some foreign country, okay? North Korean is this basically sort of a subject country of China. China considers them important because they're a buffer from South Korea, which is, it's like two warring countries that we went in and we fought over with China, and we basically went ahead. This is back in when we were at top of our American expansionist policy, where we were trying to topple all governments that weren't democratic and make them democratic. This mostly stems with our war on Russia, the Cold War and everything like that. But China was, communist, and communism was bad, and so we were trying to do that. And we got our head of ourselves. We created problems. And, for example, that's the main reason we're at war in the Middle East. We went ahead and, plus a lot of the problems in South America, we just supported a bunch of corrupt regimes trying to, bolster our interests overseas, and it backfired on us. And we're paying the cost. Troops, American lives are being paid the cost. South Korea has a bunch of Americans up there. Senator Lindsey popped off and said, you know what? It's okay if, if we have a war over there, that's all right. Better there than here. He seems to forget that there's a lot of Americans involved. I guess, but he doesn't really care about American troops. What's this going to do to the economy? When South Korea is basically, bombed the heck out of by North Korea. They got all kinds of artillery over there. Even without nuclear weapons, they can cause massive damage to North Korea in a very short time, kill thousands of American troops. And Trump's okay with that. I mean, you just look at his attitude towards troops, towards veterans. He doesn't care. He only cares about his wallet. Saudi Arabia, they're good people because I got a hotel there. Turkey, hey, got a hotel there. Ooh, and they went and moved their conference from, was it the Four Seasons? I forget. They moved their hotel from this one place, their annual summit conference, over to his hotel. Yay, money in my pocket. That's what Trump's all about, money in his pocket. And to be damned with the United States, to be damned with anybody else, it's all about lining his pocket as good as he can. And all his deals, the Blackwater thing where they're trying to get, mercenaries going up there. up there, which is tied in with the Voss and stuff. You know, I know I sound like a conspiracy nut, but I mean, look it up. It's just, you know, sister-in-law. He's trying to. I don't believe he's actually trying to destroy the United States. He just doesn't really care enough, and his own interests come first, and anything else is of secondary, if that, importance. And he's reckless, and he's going to damage. He's already damaged the United States on the world stage. He's already damaged a lot, and his effects are going to be felt for decades, if not longer. And as long as the GOP continue to support him, continue to protect him, continue to make excuses for him, they are guilty. I mean, if I see somebody commit a bank robbery, okay, and I don't report it, I'm aiding and abetting. I'm helping them. A civilian could be charged with, you know, accessory or accessory after the fact. But in this case, it's not just an accessory after the fact, which there's a few cases on that one that could be made. The conspiracy against the U.S. part is they know what's happening, and they're not doing anything about it, which means they're helping him, okay, because they want to get their agenda pushed through. And the consequences be damned. All right, that's my rant on conspiracy on this stuff here. Let's hit you with the next section here, Oklahoma reps. I'm in Oklahoma, so this is an Oklahoma perspective. I want you to check the voting records, speeches, whatever, of your local senator and House reps. Senator James Lankford is on the Intel Committee. That means he has access to this information. I've talked to him once. I've talked to his office many times. They know, most of them know me as soon as they start hearing my voice, okay? He is directly guilty of conspiracy, and I've told his office that. I'm going to give him a link to, like I said, all my reps on this one. Because he's on the Intel Committee, he has information. I believe he has information on a lot of this stuff. And a lot of stuff, just what's in public view, is enough for criminal. His policy is, we need to wait until all the investigations have done their process and go through. One of his aides was telling me, well, you wouldn't want us to violate due process or jump the gun. I go, yeah, I would. You know, in a normal criminal situation, yeah. And I'm not saying that we have to charge Trump with crimes to get him impeached, okay? That's a political thing. It's not really a legal thing. I'm not saying that we have to, charge him, with, convict him of money laundering, convict him of, selling us out to the Russians. The bit with Turkey and the Kurd that him and Flynn did, where they aided and abetted ISIS with trying to withhold aid to the Kurds as long as they could. The violation with Russia by trying to get rid of the sanctions, and then after Congress votes new sanctions, holding off on them. All of that stuff. I'm not saying you have to convict him of anything to impeach him or get rid of him under mental incompetence. He's a threat to the country. If you put your party over the good of the country, you are not patriotic. I can't call you a traitor because we're not at war yet. Like I said, I still think we got a couple months before that's going to happen. But I sure as hell will call you a traitor then. He is trying to destroy he's not trying to destroy this country. He's just doing a job of it. It's a side effect. But Senator Lankford, you're smart enough to know better. Okay? You're smart enough not... I met you. I watched people talk to you. I watched them ask questions and how fast and good you were with the facts and figures. There's no way I'm convinced that you are blinded by his excuses and what he's doing. And I know you want to be a nice guy and, whatever, and you want, you don't believe in the rhetoric and trying to, but you need to call it. You need to put the country ahead of your party instead of the other way around. And you're on the Intel Committee, so I know you must have a lot of information that we don't even have that I'm sure will come out later, and history will look back at this and go, wow. All right, Senator Inhofe. Okay, the infamous snowball senator. Never personally met the man, just listened to his speeches and stuff, and I honestly have a very low opinion of him. I don't really think he's that bright. Certainly not as bright as Lankford. And he's your classic, the guy thinks hunting is getting drunk and shooting pigeons. Okay. Um, that's not slander. I mean, you look it up. It's some animal rights stuff that he did on public land. Get let's have some beers, get drunk, shoot some pigeons, call that a fundraiser, and have a good old time. Pigeons, really? Hunting? Um, I used to go out with bow and arrow with my dad. That's hunting. Okay, deer and stuff like that. Or rifle on a deer. It's less fair, but it's hunting. Okay, just you might as well have been shooting skeet. All right, the and you would have made less of a mess. The problem, just Inhofe, I fully believe he's more than capable of just saying, you know what, don't really care. As long as we get my billionaire friends their tax cuts, the companies that are paying me all that good juicy donor money, and then once I get out, I can get a lobbyist job or something. As long as they're good with it, I'm okay. It doesn't matter what happens to the country. All right, we're gonna come for you. Okay. I honestly, I have my doubts you're even gonna run next time, so I don't know. It may not matter. Um, and I know you don't care. You're not the type to care about anything like this anyway, or Oklahoma. Um, Frank Lucas, you voted against impeachment. You are now guilty going forward. Even if you did not know, and you're kind of low on the totem pole and kind of keep to yourself and don't really seem to do anything on Congress, okay? You voted for not impeaching him. You are therefore guilty of anything that happens going forward. Anything. Okay, that means when we get to war, Congress, and remember, Congress is to declare war, but the president can start one. All he has to do is launch a missile in North Korea, make a wrong misstep. And, it's like the Cuban. I mean, imagine if Trump was involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis. We'd have had a world war. Okay, he doesn't have what it takes to judiciously handle a difficult situation. He's impulsive, and he tweets foreign dignitaries, insults them all the time, including our allies. All right, you are working against the interests of the United States of America. And I know you never served. I know you're I don't think you're a draft dodger, okay? But, yeah, no. Tom Cole, you're not my rep, okay? And a friend of mine who I respect a lot disagrees with you a little bit. She's a medical practitioner, so, disagree with some of your policies, but she thinks you're a good person. I've listened to your speeches. I overall think you're a good person. You're probably the best rep we've got in Oklahoma. But you're guilty too. I don't understand it, how you can, hold your head up high and, claim to be thinking of the good of America when you're willing to put us at risk like this, when you're willing to sell the country out for a few rubles. All right, that's the end of this fairly long-winded speech, but it was important. I hope you watched it. I hope my breaking it down into different categories let you skip over the parts you didn't want to. But this is important. We've got to protect this country. The Republican Party isn't going to do it. The Republican Party is more than happy to sell us down the river, whether it's to rich corporations, because corporations are more important than people, really. Whether it's to monsters like Roy Moore or Trump, or foreign countries like China and Russia. They don't really care. Wake up, America. Get out there, vote. Vote next time. Pick a candidate who isn't corrupt. Pick a candidate who isn't taking any corporate donor money. Brand new Congress on the Republican side, Justice Democrats on the Democratic side are both organizations that are trying to get money out of the government. Vote for them. It's a liberal group. Okay, I'm in Oklahoma. A lot of liberal bad, but called Wolfpack, that's trying to get an amendment to get rid of Citizens United and get corporate money out of politics. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to be liberal to want money out of politics, right? What that means is the rich get to control the country. And I know we all want to be rich, And so maybe you're thinking, well, someday I'll be a billionaire too. Well, odds are it's like someday I'll be, a pro football player, and stuff like that. Even if you're decent at it, odds are against you. Okay? And in the meantime, even if you think you can, and even if you do make it, I mean, we got plenty of billionaires that understand what the hell's going on and are against it. Doesn't mean, it's bad for all the rest of the people that you should then sacrifice them. This is a country. Country's made up of a lot of people. We need to have more Americans working for the country. Not for themselves, not for their pocketbook, but for the entire country as a whole. And get rid of these people who just don't care anymore, if they ever did. All right, thank you.